Premier, welcome to Insiders.
Morning, Barry.
I guess the key question there is, has anything changed? What do you believe is going on? Has there been a shift in the federal government's approach?
Well, I think all indications are that a decision's been made somewhere inside the government to breach their election promise and build these 12 new submarines, not in Australia, but in Japan. That seems pretty obvious to me.
But doesn't it also seem obvious that they've reversed that decision?
Well, let's hope so. I mean, I think what we've got here, though, is a whole lot of language which has been put in place to cover up a decision that's already taken. So when you try and retrofit a process to get a result you've already decided, that's why people start speaking in tongues like this and not being able to be coherent.
Would it be easier for the government if ASC had a better track record?
Well, we're interested in any builder from around the world to be involved in this. It's not just ASC. We just want them built in South Australia, built in Australia. That's the commitment that the Prime Minister gave. We're talking about a $20 billion contract with about 3,000 jobs at a time when we're crying out for industry here in this country. And the suggestion that we don't have the skills and capabilities to do this, we've done this before with the Anzac frigate. We're now getting ourselves back on track with the Collins-class subs. I mean, all the evidence is that if you do this over an extended period, you get better and better at it. That was the experience with Anzac, and no doubt that will be what happens here.
Now, you clearly then have some suspicions that some sort of deal might have been done with the Japanese at some point. Former Senator Graham Richardson, for example, says, quoting very reliable sources, that a document exists confirming that would be quite explosive if that was to emerge, surely.
Well, of course, it would be a direct breach of the commitment. Remember, we pressed this very hard in the lead up to the federal election. We knew that there was talk around them backing off this, and so then Senator Johnson was sent down to stand there solemnly committing a federal Liberal government to build 12 new submarines here, not just in Australia, but actually at ASC. Now, that was black and white, and what we've seen ever since that point is walking away from that commitment. And this is a bipartisan position that's really stood for about 30 years. You've got to remember that this is about our sovereign capability to defend our nation. I mean, back during the Falklands War, the British could no longer support our Oberon class of submarines. That meant that they were unoperational. Since that point, both Coalition and Labor said we need our own sovereign submarine building capability. That's what led to the Collins. There's nothing that's changed in the international situation since. We don't know what's going to happen over the next 20 or 30 years. We need a consistent capacity to be able to service our own defence needs, and that's why both parties have up to this point said that we need that capacity here in Australia.
But you talk about international relations. It may be that that's what's changed. It's the global politics comes into this, because there was a suggestion at one stage that the Americans wanted Australia to reach out to the Japanese, and it's important in terms of regional security.
Well, where's our self-respect? I mean, where's our self-reliance? I mean, the idea that we would put our future in the hands of any nation, even a present ally, is just inconsistent with the notion of being a sovereign independent state. And leaving aside the extraordinary job opportunities. I mean, we want to build a couple of new shipyards in Japan and spend $20 billion in Japan, because that's what's needed. Therefore, their shipyards are full up. They would need to actually recruit new people, build new kit over there. We could do that here in South Australia, and also the other states would be involved in supporting that exercise. The spillover effects of building one of the most sophisticated pieces of kit are extraordinary, and that's exactly what we need, an advanced manufacturing capability in this nation.
Now, you also started a conversation this week on the nuclear industry. Was that out of desperation, given that you have the highest unemployment in the country and yet the biggest reserves of uranium in the world?
No, it's about looking in a clear-sighted way about what the world needs. We're in a carbon-constrained future. Many of the growing countries in the world need to grow in a way that doesn't pollute our atmosphere. We can't have coal-fired power stations popping up all over China and India. They do have demand for our uranium. We are the largest supplier of uranium from Australia, one of the largest in the world. It makes sense for us in that context to explore whether we should deepen our involvement in the nuclear fuel cycle.
So you're talking about enrichment, you're talking about power stations, are you also talking about storage of nuclear waste?
The whole gambit. all the way. Presently, we're in the mining and the minor processing, but we're looking at the whole of the nuclear fuel cycle. We're asking ourselves, should we be involved? What are the safeguards? What are the issues associated with that? We've established a Royal Commission, which is the highest level of inquiry we can establish, to ensure that the people of South Australia can have an informed debate about this, so that they can just take our present state of opinion. Everybody's got an opinion about this, but we want to take that to a reasoned judgment, and that's the process we've put in place.
And do you think you can carry the federal party with you on this?
Well, 3 years ago, I co-sponsored a motion to change a long-standing policy to allow us to export uranium to India. So if the South Australian community reaches the view they want to take this step, then I'll take the next step with our federal party.
Now, it's a big call to open up the nuclear issue, but you've also opened up the issue of superannuation. Better superannuation arrangements for politicians. The headline in the Adelaide Advertiser this morning is, "You can't be serious." Why would you give politicians...
Well, it won't help me.
But why would you give those who are left, or those who will be left into the future, a more generous deal?
Well, as I said, it won't help me. I'm in the scheme that I think provides some degree of security for people in public life. But many of the new members of Parliament are in a scheme that was closed down some time ago. I think it was a very bad decision the Labor Party took through Mark Latham to close that scheme down. That's my personal view, but it won't be down to me. There'll be an independent tribunal that will make decisions about all these matters.
And the public? Surely you appreciate, and public opinion on this would hardly be in support of it.
Well, you know, I think public opinion might be that probably not worth paying us anything. So I don't know whether we'll necessarily get much of a reasoned debate about that. But look, frankly, I think it's about the integrity of the whole political process. I don't think people should be looking over their shoulder about their next job when they're in these jobs, making big decisions about the future of the state or the nation. And I think if we keep lowering the status of these jobs, I think you'll get the inevitable result.
Premier, thanks for your time this morning. Appreciate it.
Pleasure. Thank you.